This podcast is a collaboration between Costard and Touchstone Productions and the Dads from the Crypt podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the How Not to Make a Movie podcast. My name is Alan Katz.
And I'm Gil Adler.
One of the actresses that we worked with a number of times when we were doing Tales from the Crypt and the feature films was Sherrie Rose. And the strange thing is we hired Sherrie 3 times. I think
no one else ever got 3 different episodes.
Yeah, and the first time we hired her, actually William Friedkin hired her in the room. Sherrie will tell you the story, for the episode on a dead man's chest of Tales from the Crypt. The second time, as we'll describe, we actually wrote a part and we had no one else in mind but Sherrie Rose. And it's one of my favorite episodes. I don't know about you, Gil. It's one of my favorites. It's called Only Skin Deep. Then when we did the first Tales from the Crypt feature film, Demon Knight, there was a part that we hired Sherrie for, and unfortunately most of her role ended up on the cutting room floor, but we thought of Sherrie for it, and I don't think anyone else was in our mind. Had we continued working together, I'm sure we would have found something else to do for Sherrie Rose. She is an amazingly talented actress, but in addition to that, she's a very, very talented producer, writer, and she's got an amazing story. Sherrie knows everybody.
And a director.
And
a director as well.
Yeah.
And her arc of going from Tales from the Crypt, when we knew her all those years ago, to what she's done since is quite remarkable.
Wow.
I think it'll be very enlightening for some of our younger female directors, writers, actors, producers. It's really an exceptional episode.
Her theme is be prepared.
I think we should let her talk for herself, however.
Truly. Here's Sherrie Rose, everybody. I think you're the only actor or actress that we hired more than twice. We hired you 3 times.
Yay.
And,
thank you.
I, for one, want to know why.
I don't know. You tell me. I just said yes.
That is the point of this conversation. There's something from the first time that we hired you. There was something about you that I don't know. It worked for the sensibility that we were telling stories in.
Well, I think the first one with William Friedkin, he really pretty much hired me in the room, which is not really normal. And
we will get to this.
Okay. But I'm saying, I think that's like, he allowed me some freedoms and taught me some things that I think allowed me to be more fearless.
I love this. I love this. And we will visit this heavily. But first, hey, the person who walked into that room was a very particular person. What we want to talk about first is, how did we get there? You started out in Connecticut.
I started out in Connecticut. I was born one of the fattest babies in Hartford Hospital, is what I'm told. I was a very big baby.
You were a big baby. Wow.
Yeah. And then I grew up in Connecticut. I started working on picking tobacco at 10 and had paper routes and babysat and ran a vegetable farm. And
do they grow tobacco in Connecticut, or
they do? Yes, they do.
Huh.
And vegetables and all kinds of things. Lots of farms. And the peak season is summer, so you get to work in the summer. I have goats now, goats and rabbits, and everyone's a rescue over here. So we all rescue. I have a lot of rescue animals. So we have cats, dogs, fish, rabbits, chickens, goats.
You're halfway to an omnivore's feast.
Yeah, I love being around nature and animals. It's my favorite.
All right, so Connecticut.
Yeah. So then my family moved down to Florida. My sister got into University of South Florida. So my mother, father, and myself, we lived in a '66 Volkswagen van. So we moved from a very small place in Connecticut. Connecticut sounds very affluent, but I grew up in a trailer. and then lived in a van. I wish I still had that 66 Volkswagen van, because it's worth a lot more money now. And it was very cool, and it was great because that's the year I was born. So I was like, oh, this truck is the same age as me. This van. So then we moved down there, and I proceeded then to go to USF as well, as an engineer student. All my family was in accounting. My dad, my mom worked at a bank.
You have two degrees. You have a joint major. You have electrical engineering and theater.
Yeah. So what happened was I really didn't want to go to engineering school. That wasn't the plan. It just was a way to get into college. And when I was young, I was very good at math. I'm still good at math. And, what I loved about math was that it doesn't ever lie. Like 2 and 2 is never going to really equal 5. It's always going to equal 4. I found that fascinating. It was just like, wow, it's always going to be that. Like your answer's always going to be correct. If you do it right.
The problem is that people can make numbers lie.
Yes.
That's neither here nor there.
Yeah. My high school guidance counselor, she kind of shepherded me and said, why don't you just go this route and get into school? You'll get it paid for, and let's try this. So I did. I graduated.
Practical. Incredibly practical.
Yeah. And then part of the engineering aspect, this is kind of boring part of the story, however, but
boring parts.
One of the things I had to do was put in the soundboard into the second theater. And while I was there, they were rehearsing a play down below, and I kept kind of doing that and thinking, well, that looks way funner.
Now, why would you think that's a boring part of the story?
I guess because I've said it enough. I don't know.
That is, good God, you took us right up to the entry point of how you got to us.
Well, yes. That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense, because between the engineering and the theater, so here she can act, and then when the lights go out and they have trouble with the electricity, they know where to turn to. They don't have to go.
Actually, there were some times where stuff blew, and I was like, "Oh, I know how to get it. I know where to run it. I know where to reroute it. I know what to do." And I've always had such an inquisitive mind. I always like to know how things work, how the background of something works. I always like to know why we can eat a food, or why like a machine works the way it does. Like, who was the first person that tried the kumquat, or like who was that first person that ate something and said, "Oh, lobster. This is edible."
I wonder who first looked at a lobster and said, "That's food."
Yeah. Like, and how do we cook it, and how do we crack it open? It's just like, who is that first person, and why do we, and what else have we not tried yet? Is there anything else we haven't tried yet? I'm always curious about that. Every time I'm in nature, I'm like, I wonder if someone's eaten that. A lot of my friends are like, don't eat it. Don't eat it.
Are you by nature an adventurous eater?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. When I was acting, I got to live all over the world. I lived in Thailand and Peru and Haiti and Santo Domingo, really. But, so I kind of had to have a palate for, I couldn't just eat rice everywhere,
That would get tiresome. That would get tiresome.
Yeah. So I put in the theater. So I auditioned for a play. At the same time, I started doing a little modeling. And in that modeling, I got a job on, what's it called? Busch Gardens Adventure Island. So I was the yaya girl that came down the pool and jumped out of the water and went, yaya, get your yayas in the Wawa at Adventure Island.
Oh, wow. The yaya girl.
Which afforded me to get a SAG card. And then they paid me a lot of money. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, for like 9 hours, you guys are going to pay me that much money, and then I don't go back again, and then you're going to keep sending me money?
What did you make on that first?
I don't remember, but I grew up really poor, so it was a lot.
Yeah.
It was a lot for me, and I was working through college. I was working at Chi-Chi's, the home of the chimichanga. So I'd answer the phone. Hi, Chi-Chi's, home of the chimichanga. What would you like? I mean, so it was paying more than that. And I got like, a Budweiser commercial or Coors Light. I started getting these commercials, And at the same time, I ended up auditioning for a small part in a play called Female Transport. And I had to play this character, Madge, who was the oldest character. So they put old age makeup on me and they blackened out my teeth. And the part ended up getting bigger. And I got some write-ups in the local, like the Tampa Bay Tribune or whatever Times or whatever it was at the time, talking about my acting. And I thought, well, that's odd. So it was kind of like, oh, I'm kind of good at this naturally. And on the other side, I can make some money doing it. And what I was doing, I didn't like. I didn't enjoy. I was the only girl in my study group, for classes. Doing a differential equation for hours at a time was not that fun. It's like,
strangely.
Yeah. So everyone else seemed to be having more fun than that. So yeah, that's how it changed.
And the theater in that world, it's a community.
Yeah. You felt like taken care of, and everyone's taking care of each other's makeup and hair and wardrobe, and that type of stuff was old. It was the 1800s. And so you're blacking out each other's teeth, and it is just such a great sense of camaraderie. And, everyone's there to build something together. Right. So we're all there, not competitively, but to make everything better and great. Mm-hmm. And I was that person that I memorized everybody's lines. I was just like, if somebody would drop a line, I'd kind of pick it up. And, I was a straight A student, and I always still like to be a straight A student. I'm kind of that annoying person. I kind of like, I've gotten my real estate license and my notary license in my days. And if I got 97, I'd go and talk to somebody like, what did I miss? Mm-hmm. I'm confused because I thought I knew that, I'm that person, but it just goes that I want to get it right. And I want to know what I did wrong so I can fix it. So
this all would suit you later as a producer.
Yes, I think so. Though I made a lot of mistakes as a producer, a lot of mistakes.
Oh, hey, we could do a whole podcast about it. You had a question, Gil?
No, I said we all do. As
all
make those mistakes.
Yeah.
All right. What brought you out to Los Angeles?
So I did Miami Vice as an actress, and then I did a movie called Summer Job for Sony. And I started working more, moved to Miami, started working more. I had to make a decision to leave college and kind of continue this idea, or, just see what Tampa, Florida, or Miami held for me. And I just realized that I didn't want to be a big fish in a small pond, and I just wanted to give it a shot. I didn't know anybody. I knew maybe two people, but but I just kind of wanted to try it. So I packed up a U-Haul and I put my the trailer on the back with my car, and I put on Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction, and I started driving. And I think I had $1,400 to my name that time, and got an apartment right off Hollywood Boulevard on Poinsettia.
Did you know anybody out here?
Yeah, I knew who I write with now, Scott Taylor and Perry Lister and Billy Idol. But I didn't know them. I didn't know Perry and Billy very well, but I knew Scotty very well. Mm-hmm. And that week that I got there is the first week I met Steve Jones, who became one of my bestie friends.
What year are we talking about here?
Like 1989.
Okay. All right. So 1989, you move into WeHo.
Yeah, it wasn't even WeHo, it's Hollywood, because it was like Poinsettia and Hollywood. Like, it was
okay. All right.
Gray and Fairfax.
Yeah.
And I think WeHo starts
WeHo adjacent.
Yeah. Not in a nice apartment and not in a very good. I mean, I could just walk to the Denny's, or the Wendy's. I mean, it was, it's not a great little neighborhood, but up the way is where the canyons are, where everyone goes hiking and stuff. So it's right in it, But right away I got a job. I got a job in Thailand, so I left immediately. I got a job in Gold We Trust with Jan Michael Vincent and Sam Jones. I had a huge role in it, and I got that movie because another girl dropped out, so I was second choice. And this was my introduction into. Well, I don't know if I should say this, but
Go for
For
it.
me, it was a turning point. It was my introduction of a lot of people come to Hollywood for a lot of different reasons.
They want you to get the gold and the MIS.
One or the other.
I knew that I loved creating characters and I loved telling stories. And there was other people that wanted to be either famous or just make the money or, you know, have a lifestyle. And I knew that wasn't me. And when I got put on hold for this part, another girl got it. And the boyfriend basically said to her, I'll buy you a car or do something. You don't go. I need you with me. So they called and they said, is your passport in order? Can you fly tomorrow? I was like, yes.
Can you fly to Thailand tomorrow?
Yes. And I got off the plane and they walked me right onto set. And thank God I was young enough where I wasn't worried about puffy eyes and, you know, all that stuff. But Jan Michael Vincent just reamed me. He's like, I don't want to talk about this and I don't want to talk about that. And I go, I don't even know who you are, dude. I was just been on a plane for 14 hours. I haven't slept. I've had some cocktails on the plane. And now they're handing me like 6 pages of dialogue. So I'm going to focus on this. And later you can tell me about what I'm supposed to talk about. Because apparently there was a bunch of stuff about him in the news. But at that time, it wasn't like there was no Google. Like I didn't know anything that was going on with this guy's life, but apparently he thought it was relevant to tell me and I didn't care. But then we became fast friends.
Recall vaguely stuff.
Yeah, who knows? Who cares? He's a great actor, you know, and Sam Jones was great to work with. And it was so fun we were there for 3 months. It was so fun to see Thailand. You know, we went to Phuket and Phi Phi Island and it was great. I loved it.
Always nice to travel on other people's money.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the best.
People feed you, like they give me a place to stay. They feed me.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. It's one of the perks of this stupid way to make a living.
Yeah.
But then the movie's producers ran afoul of Thai immigration, which held up the film's release for years, which screwed up everything for Sherrie and her big break.
Because it was a pretty big budget movie. Big action. I mean, helicopters, shoot ups, armies, tankers, scuba diving. You know, it was big. Something got held up with customs, and I'm not sure what all that happened. So I've had I would say a nice slow burn, and there's been a few things that probably could have put my career over the next echelon or edge or whatever that didn't happen. One thing that had happened, it was on a weekend. Unlawful Entry that I was in came out. Tales from the Crypt came out, and Dream On came out, all in the same weekend. My manager handled this musician who got arrested that weekend. Suddenly, her energy and everything was with that. And he was a bigger star than I was. On that Monday came and CAA and a few people called, oh, who's this girl? I saw her over the weekend. I saw her on this. I saw her on that. You know, there wasn't that momentum. And I also can say for myself that I get a little bored where after I made that movie, Me and Will, it opened the Women in Film series for Sundance and I got signed at William Morris and all that. I decided I wanted to start a punk band instead of make another movie. So I started a punk band called Little Morphine Annie, and Steve Jones played a little on it. Matt Sorum, the drummer from Guns N' Roses, played on it for me. And I suddenly was like, I'm going to do this. And everyone's kind of like, you kind of got to strike while the fire's hot. And I'm like, well, I don't know what I want to do. So I want to do this now. And I kind of get a little antsy. Like I get antsy. Like, oh, I want to try this now. I want to do this now. I want to try this now. Mm-hmm. So I follow my heart and passion, not necessarily my direction.
For better or worse.
Yep.
Do you regret not following as a director path? Because we will get to Will and Me. I watched it.
Oh, thank you.
I just watched it on Tubi, and we will link to it because everyone listening to this podcast or watching us on our YouTube channel, you should watch this movie. It's terrific. It's a really lovely piece of work. We'll get to it.
I try not to live with regrets. I don't I don't kind of look back and go, oh God, I shoulda, woulda, coulda. I mean, I also had a big opportunity with, it's called Me and Will. A lot of people switch it with Will and me, understandably, but it's called Me and Will. And
Oh, okay.
Cassie,
I apologize. I think I saw.
no worries, no worries. Cassie and Elways at the time was repping the film, and he set up a screening for Oliver Stone. So we went to Oliver Stone's office and screened the movie, and he wanted me to change the ending. And he watched the whole movie. We watched it with him. And I drove home and I said, I may not ever be able to write, direct, produce, and star in another movie. And I don't want anyone else to mandate what my ending should be.
What kind of ending?
He kept doing this. The bad girl should live. The bad girl needs to live. I'll put my name on it, but you got to reshoot it and the bad girl has to live. And I'm like, yeah, that's not really the story I'm trying to tell. You know, I mean, it's hard to talk back to Oliver Stone. I mean, he's Oliver Stone, right? Yeah. But I have to have my own opinion. I have to live by my own creed. And so I said no to that. Sometimes I regret that only because it could have been a sacrificial lamb so that I could have gone on to maybe make another film sooner. And I've been writing still, and I've now started raising money again to start making movies again, which is exciting for me. And I had to put that on hold for a little while because I became a mom, and that was important to me to be available to my son. And that was where I chose to put my time and energy. So, but now he's off at NYU and he's at film school at Tisch.
Congratulations.
Yeah, that's great.
So he's flown out of the coop. And
does he want to write or direct, or does he know yet?
I think he wants to write and direct. I think that's his focus. He's doing some modeling and he's done some acting. He's a good-looking kid, but I think his focus is on writing and directing. He's got a really good eye for directing, and he writes very quickly. I introduced him to Final Draft when he was probably 16, and he just picked it up so quick. He's like, oh, drop down over here, over here. I'm like, oh, okay. Guess you don't need my help. You know.
I frankly, I'm a screenwriter. I'm a screenwriter guy. I have Final Draft and screenwriter. I can't stand Final Draft. I like screenwriter, but
oh, you like screenwriter? Yeah, you do.
Yeah, but that's a screenwriter argument.
Yeah, well, I think it's whatever. Yeah, it's whatever resonates with you, whatever helps you get it on the page.
Oh, yeah. I'm fussy about little technical details. Like I said,
right. Well, I'll tell you, I still write pen to paper, and then I write it as if it was looking like a script, and then I transcribe it later and write it that way. I can't. This doesn't resonate with me.
It's funny. The best class I ever took in high school was typing. And learning how to type was really everything. For the most part, I can think like this, and then it depends upon the nature of the keyboard. Different keyboards, some keyboards are just not acceptable. It's got
they don't feel right.
Everything has to flow from the fingertips through the keyboard. Dialogue. Yeah, a lot of dialogue gets written longhand. I don't know. It just naturally wants to go that way. It doesn't want to go that way. It wants to go this way. I don't know why that is. It's a mystery. Yeah.
I think once a writer, always a writer. You know, I just have, I get some of the best scenes or lines just driving through the canyon here. I live out in Malibu, and I'll start laughing to myself. And, my son got used to me going, it's like, Mom, are you writing a scene in your head right now? I'm like, yeah. I mean, you want me to tell you about it? Sometimes he said yes. Sometimes he says no. But, I just start all these, characters are having an issue or something's happening, and then I'm like, it's perfect. I got to pull over and write this down.
So the first time we hired Sherrie at Crypt was for Billy Friedkin's episode on a dead man's chest. It's about a rock guitarist who gets a tattoo that's a little too lifelike. So we have Billy Friedkin directing the episode, and we're now casting, and you walk into the room.
Yes.
Billy.
Yes. Danielle Ullman was my manager. She used to be married to Greg Ullman, Danielle Dell. She still is a manager, D2 management. She got me
in the episode.
Yeah. Yes. He's in the episode. And then I think I had suggested Steve Jones, and you guys hired him.
We did.
And
what did you do with your commission?
I never get commission. get the gig down. Sometimes I'll get a dinner or lunch out of something, but usually not even that.
Some.
So, but I remember Danielle telling me, be prepared. And I always, I try to always be prepared. And I knew if I was going to read for somebody like William Friedkin, I better be prepared. And I better be prepared to the point where if he throws other things at me, I'm ready to pivot and make those adjustments for him. And, immediately, one of my first big auditions that I ever had, I read for, it probably was Parenthood. At the time, they didn't tell us what it was, but I read for Ron Howard down in Miami, right after I had done Miami Vice. Ellen, I can't remember her last name right now, but she brought me in the room. And I remember being prepared and Ron Howard thanking me for being prepared.
What did you do to prepare?
Well, first of all, I just also learned the dialogue. I learned all sides of the dialogue. So even if the person reading on the other side of the camera dropped a line, I knew where to pick it up, just that I was just, I took it seriously. I learned it, and was off script and ready to go. And then made some
Once an A student, always an A student, eh?
Yes. And I made some choices, right? So, and right or wrong, I committed to those and what they were. And I asked him, the character's name was Miss Vendetta, so I kind of knew that she was tough, right? And he allowed me to just play, and then he brought me to new places in the room, and he thanked me for being prepared, and he basically said, you're Miss Vendetta. And the casting director was not happy about that. And so hey, that's not true. We have other people to see. Other people are coming in. You guys work out that. I'm happy to do it. I'm available. It's just so grateful, And I always look at those experiences too. And that, even if you don't get the opportunity to read for William Friedkin or something, you never know what's going to happen. And it's just awesome to meet people like that, people that are talented, and Ernest Dickerson was amazing to work with.
It's so true. The impression that you make today might not pay off today or tomorrow. It might pay off a couple days or weeks or months down the road, but that's the point.
Yeah, and you got to show up. A lot of the movies that I did in Thailand, the action movies, listen, they're not the best movies. They're not bad movies. They're whatever. But I was able to keep earning a living and keep working at what I love doing. And I worked with the same directors over and over again because, I don't mess around and make them more stressed. I know they have enough to deal with. I'm there to help facilitate what they need.
The sex scene on A Dead Man's Chest was... Billy directed it rather forthrightly. He really had you guys going at it.
Yeah, he was really pushing us. That was a rough day. Doing any sex scene is hard, and then he wanted it to be raw and gritty and making the other actor getting upset, and stuff like that. So
Yul Vasquez.
Yeah, Yul. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he wanted Yul to just get more and more agitated and stuff. So he pushed us when I was there with Steve Jones too. When I was he killed her, screaming. You got to go deeper. Don't hold anything back. It's tough. You're vulnerable. People are, the camera's on you. Other people are going to be watching it later. You want to look good. Those are never easy.
It's a work environment, but you're still naked and they're not.
Yes.
There's just something in the power structure of the room that seems, there's just an oddness to it.
Yeah. It's who you work with too. Yul was amazing. He's just a gentleman. With William, and I didn't expect this from William Friedkin either, I knew that his job wasn't to make me comfortable. And I accepted that, right? I knew that his job was to get what he wanted out of the scene. Yeah. So I wasn't looking to him to make me comfortable. I knew enough that I was going to have to make myself feel safe and comfortable, and lean on Yul in that way that that he was just as vulnerable as I was in this.
Indeed.
I didn't look at it as I'm the little girl. I looked at it as him and I are both vulnerable. We're both actors. We're both trying to emote something and give William something. And William's job was not to make us comfortable. Now, that may have changed in the environment of where we are now in filmmaking and with these
The chaperones.
The chaperones, yeah. So, that all may be different now, but at the time, and I still don't think it's, though I have directed sex scenes and I know that it's different the way that I did it, but that's the style.
That's something that I definitely wanted to ask you about after watching. There's a very erotic scene.
Yeah. In Me and Will with
Yeah.
Patrick Dempsey.
Yeah. And basically, you have a co-director, but you still are directing you. This is still your vision for what you are seeing of you, the actress.
Yes.
You, the director, have a certain need for you, the actors, to do certain things.
Yeah.
Was that a different experience?
Well, first of all, that scene was way more intense than what ended up getting edited because I could not get the rating that I wanted. That scene was way more intense, and they made me kept cutting the scene, and I kept having to go back to the rating people and cut more out and cut more out and cut more out. They were
what in particular did they want to cut?
They had a problem with the gun being used, and they were calling it a rape scene, and I was calling it a love scene. So I kept saying, "What rape scene are you talking about? I didn't shoot a rape scene."
Yeah.
So in my mind, we were just so far off because for me, the characters that's how those types of people in the time frame of their life, that's how they connected intimately. And everyone connects intimately differently. I felt for those two people in that snapshot of what they were going through, that's how they had to connect. So it was different, and did I direct it? I mean, I did call action and cut on those. It was very cramped, and we shot on 35, so the camera's huge.
Wow. Boy, yeah.
Camera's massive.
Of course, it's 1999.
Yeah. So it's like, you got this big old, and we're shooting in my Winnebago. That was my Winnebago that I owned, and I was like, I'm not cutting a wall out, so there's like, the camera's like just, right there. So it was the logistics of shooting that. I mean, if we had more money, I probably would have just cut an RV in half, or built one inside of a set,
Alas.
Yeah. Or now shot it on a red camera and not had a big 35 honking, you know what I mean, or whatever.
Everything's different. I mean, even lighting, God, it's all LED lights. It's so simple now. In fact, Marvel doesn't even, they shoot all their movies flat white light because they'll do all the lighting in post.
That's so crazy.
Oh, it's it's madness. The inmates are running the asylum, but never mind that. All right, we keep jumping forward. We're still at Tales from the Crypt. And
okay.
What are your other takeaways from working with Billy Friedkin?
Well, I feel like he pushed me, emotionally just to get further, and get comfortable and get comfortable with the uncomfortableness, right? I'm going to be really uncomfortable and push you to be uncomfortable, but know that I have you, like I got you kind of thing. And just allowing myself to go there, feeling grateful to have the job and grateful to play in that arena and just, bring what I could to it, not take it for granted.
It's a great episode.
I think it is too. Yeah.
And we loved your work in it. And when we got to the only skin deep episode that Bill Malone directed,
yes,
I don't know that we had anyone else in mind but you.
We didn't.
I think we wrote it with you in mind, and it was always pretty much what we intended from the get-go.
Oh my God.
I think we all learned a lot from Billy, working with Billy. We had never worked with Billy before.
Ooh, yeah.
And it was a pretty interesting experience for us as well.
Yeah.
And then when Bill Malone, who was a friend, and we brought him in to direct an episode, I think we looked at each other and said, let's see if Sherrie's available. I don't think we even talked about, let's bring in Sherrie and some other people. I just said, let's see if Sherrie's around.
No.
Were you ever aware of that?
No, I know I wasn't, but I know that I said yes. I know that if you guys call me, I'm going to say yes.
Good
You
thing
know,
too. Well, but that is a stone cold fact. It was never between you and anyone else. It was written with you in mind. Dick Beebe's script was good, and I think we modified it just so. Bill's vision was spectacular. It was like the inside of the character and the outside environment were all so tightly connected. Uh, it's one of my favorite episodes.
oh, cool.
And all my other favorites are ones that I wrote. The Gil and I wrote. So, this is
You better say
a
that.
lot. But it's a combination for me of Bill's incredible vision, but
That can't be
it's
very
your work in that
satisfying,
episode.
demolishing a dormant vegetable.
It
Or a
takes
pumpkin's
it
fruit.
takes my breath away.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
The, the challenge is that you do the whole thing with another face on.
Yes. I'll tell you, that became for me very freeing.
Obviously. Got quite a temper, Carl. That girlfriend of yours.
As a
She's got
female
a set of lungs on her
in
like
this
Voice of
business.
America.
You kind of are either this ingenue or you're the pretty girl, or you're a character actor.
A synthetic
Sometimes I
shell with
wanna
a
look like
corpse
shit.
inside.
I don't want to always try to look my best. Like, I don't always want to eat good. Sometimes I just want to unbutton that top button and eat some crap food and feel bloated and gross and not always feel great. I know that doesn't sound attractive, but it's just in this business, it's like you always got to be a size 2 or whatever. That at least was in that moment, in that time, right? It may have changed, but there's still a thing. If you're Halle Berry, you got to look, you know what I mean? You can play a character or Charlize Theron, but you better then bounce back to your size, or it's just the nature of the beast.
It's your brand. It's your brand, and that's an important part of how you're going to sell what it is that you're selling.
So when you get to play something where I feel like that was my freest acting.
Yeah, I will.
Because I didn't worry about how my face looked or if this was the right side or, that was my freest time. I wish I could do more of that.
I like to do a whole series of her. She's the main character. She goes hunting every week.
Yeah, and she could really own her sensuality and her sexuality both, behind that mask without feeling judged, because she was past the point of feeling judged. Which is another, I think, point of contention as a female, is that you're always kind of having to hide or hold your sexuality and your sensuality. Guys can have swagger and all this, but a woman kind of has to walk that line. So for this character, I felt like she could just go for it.
She is the alpha in every room she walked into.
Yeah.
And
I love just sitting on the counter and putting her feet up and, sucking on the cherry. It's
from the first moment that we meet her, she owns the room.
Yeah. Yeah.
But again, the she is her. And the she is you is her. The she is you. And it's the way that you sat on that counter, and really it's the way that you own that camera.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Here's a dirty little secret from producer to actor. Me personally, I can't speak for Gil. Of all the actors I've ever hired, I never ever hired an actor to act. I never wanted an actor to act. Acting is the stuff that's going to end up on the floor. The camera will see you acting, and the audience will see you acting. What we really rely on is for actors to be as honestly as they possibly can. It's that nakedness, and the more emotionally naked an actor is willing to get, well, that's okay. That's where really that's what makes them great, is their willingness to get that vulnerable, so we can all, well, for the benefit of the story that we're watching. So, hey, aside from Meryl Streep and a couple of English actors who actually disappear into a role, really, that's not the point of the exercise. I've always hired actors to be who they are as honestly as they possibly can. And that you suddenly were liberated by not having to worry about this in particular, because now it's all the subtext.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is what makes that episode so chilling, is that, it's subtext. So nothing is ever, banging you on the head. You have this, oh, it's so creepy.
Yeah.
It's so atmospherically uncomfortable. And yet the character sitting in the middle of it is completely comfortable within her own odd skin.
Yes.
And that, I think, is the secret sauce to the episode. It really is the zen that you put at her center. That even when it does get violent,
Mm-hmm.
the violence almost is part of the setup for the zen. It's almost it's almost scripted. It's like part of a menu.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get through this course to get to that course. It almost justifies that final move with the knife when off goes his face.
So creepy.
It does contain, I think, one of the best puns the Crypt Keeper ever did when he talks about your character and
I
says,
guess that's one way to wear a guy out.
yeah, that was one of my few contributions to the episode was that joke. How long did it take to put the mask on every day?
I don't remember. A long time. A long time.
We're still working with Todd Masters.
Are you? He's so
Yeah.
great. Are you guys doing more Tales from the Crypts or something else? Or
Oh no, that's a whole other.
Oh,
that's a whole.
That's a story I don't want to get into.
Well, we're actually about to go to into the marketplace with a show called Are You Afraid?
Oh, okay.
And it's a serialized story, like the streaming show like you'd see on Netflix. It's about flesh-eating ghouls.
Wow. Mm.
And if we get this thing up and running, your phone will ring, Sherrie.
Count me in. You know where to find me.
Alas, we did not challenge you nearly so much when we hired you for Demon Knight.
Though Demon Knight was hard for those contacts because my eyes got really messed up from wearing those black contacts.
Right, that's right. Because the whole family gets demonized in the very beginning.
Yeah, when I was a little bummed because I had more of a role, and then when I went to the Grauman Theater, we had the premiere there, and it started differently than how the script was, with the girl in the bathtub or something now, or I think, I don't remember, but a lot of my part was cut out. So then you don't really understand why she's there, later, which is fine. Right. I mean, it is, filmmaking, I always say there's 3 movies, one you write, one you shoot, and one you edit. When I did Me and Will, I had to cut Michael DeBar out. We shot all these great scenes with him, and I love him as a friend and as an actor. And he played the therapist, but the therapy scenes were just bringing the movie down. I just thought, and I kept trying to cut him shorter, and then it just kept choppy, and then I finally just cut it. And so I sent him a basket of muffins, and I said, I'm sorry, you're going to be on the editing floor. And then he's like, you bastard, don't you know I'm off carbs, darling? Because not only did you cut me out, but you send me muffins that I can't eat.
Oh boy, just bad to worse. Well, okay. I mean, we're there. I mean, there were other projects between Demon Knight and
But let me just say about Demon Knight really fast, because
sure.
I really, really loved working with Ernest Dickerson. Like I loved working with him so much. He had such a way with the camera that I found in, like, when he had like Billy Zane. And Billy Zane and I found out we were born the same day, same year, like kind of like minutes apart. So we became closer. And that was just kind of fun that we, our birthdays, and we ended up having birthday parties later together and celebrating. But he had like Billy Zane in front of the camera, and then like the camera would pull back, and then he would have him run around the other side. So it looks like he disappeared and came back, or, but I'm that type of person that if I'm on set, I'm not usually in my trailer. I like to be out and watch and it's how I learned how to produce. Well, what do you do? What do you do? Well, what do you do? Well, what do you do? Well, how long do you work? Well, what's that? That's a gobo arm? Oh, what does that do? What's that for? So just watching Ernest, kind of do his thing was so interesting. And I thought he made me think I shouldn't direct, because I thought he had such a mastery of the camera and the way he could use the camera to tell the story better, of tricks that I'm like, oh, my brain doesn't go that way. I think I'm really good at directing actors, right? But I don't think I have a great handle on a movement of a camera as much as I would like to.
Well,
and
I would disagree. Who directed that part of Me and Will? Who was responsible?
Well, I mean, I did, and I had help, but I'm just saying it's not like it doesn't. I really have to struggle to find it.
There are some great shots in that movie.
Thank you.
Oh my God! Like the meeting in her trailer. You start and we're outside the Winnebago, then we move to the window and we're kind of watching through the window.
Yeah. Oh, thanks.
That's a really nice shot.
And we stole that shot because we parked the RV up on Mulholland Drive, and then I said, okay, let's lay a dolly track down. They said, what if the cops come? I said, just keep shooting until they say no.
Yeah, no. But it's a great shot. It's a great shot. It's a terrific, and it's a long.
Yeah. Joey Forsythe, she was amazing. She's the DP. She was really great. I really loved working with her.
Another great shot in the bar. It starts out tight on Jane's shot glass, and then it becomes a great setup to the tight 2 shot.
I'm sorry. What happened? I thought things were going good.
That's another great shot. There's great storytelling.
I don't see what the big deal is.
Whatever you were thinking as you were watching Ernest, you were an A student, for fuck's sake. One last shot that is really super is the discovery of the bike.
Oh yeah.
At M. Emmett Walsh's garage.
I love him. He's so great. He is so great. I love the reveal. First of all, I love that motorcycle. And
is that the real motorcycle?
The real motorcycle does not exist.
Okay.
There's been a duplicate, and I actually saw it again recently.
Huh.
Very oddly, during COVID, it was in a warehouse space in Agora Hills, and I was at a doctor's appointment, and I walked, and then I saw something out of the corner of my eye, and I took 2 steps back, and I went, is that? I walked in, I looked through the window, and it was, it's a temporary place where they have Easy Rider magazine, who now owns those motorcycles. So they had both motorcycles from the thing, and I was like, can I come in and sit on them and take pictures? And the girl was like, yeah, I don't care. I'm crying, I'm calling Melissa, I'm crying. I can't believe America here. I was having such a bad day. I can't believe I'm seeing this. It's crazy. But M. Emmett Walsh is great, and I love that. I love the idea of freedom and motorcycles, and just being able to take off, and people, I still ride, and people say, oh, do you want to go riding with me? I'm like, no. the point of riding is to be by myself. I will ride with some people occasionally, but that's not really why I ride.
As a non-motorcycle person at all, there's one question I just got to know the answer to this. All right, on a hog, the arms are up like this.
Yeah.
That cannot be comfortable.
Well, my bike is
for a long period of time. Watch you guys go down the highway like that. I like at some point, really, your arms are going to hurt.
Yeah, they call the ape hangers, right? So, I have straight bars, so mine are out like this.
Yeah. Okay, I understand that, but I mean, I just want to understand. I mean, that does hurt, right? I mean,
that wouldn't be
it hurts.
That wouldn't be my choice. So,
what was the process of getting Me and Will up off its into getting it made? Geez, let's go there.
That was a very long, arduous process. It started with a flickering of an idea of two women on motorcycles, just riding around town. Melissa and I, for a long time, I didn't have a car. I only had a motorcycle. I went to many auditions with, well, at first there wasn't a helmet law, so I didn't have a helmet. I didn't ride a helmet until they insisted with the law that they did. And oftentimes I would leave my house without it because I would forget it. But then I would get there and have to look like a girl. So then I would go in the bathroom and take off the boots and take off the jacket and throw on a dress and, you know, start whipping stuff out of the backpack to start putting what I call girl ready. So I get girl ready and then go into the audition and then go back and then, you know, get so I can ride on my bike again. And just the impact that I saw when I would ride, and then especially when I would ride with Melissa, people would just stop us and look at us and talk to us, you know, and it had this impact of two women on Harleys, you know, with long blonde hair that from our point of view looks like nothing and shouldn't have an impact. It's just getting in a toy. It doesn't matter. It's just whatever. It's just yourself, you know. Why does that have an impact? Why is that impactful? You know, what is that? And what if we did a movie where these two girls are riding? Why would they be riding? What would they be doing? How did they meet? What's the story? And I was always obsessed with Easy Rider. And over my time, I became friendly with Peter Fonda and Jack Nicholson, and Dennis Hopper I've only met a few times, didn't become friendly with him. Rode on the Love Ride, which is a ride for muscular dystrophy with Peter Fonda and Dwight Yoakam a few times, and just kind of had this community of riders. And it just was one of those things, or what if they're looking for this Captain America bike? What if they like go on this road trip to, and then we fill in the story. So we just started writing bits and pieces of it. Finally had a script. It did the rounds. It went to all the different studios where I could get in and pitches. Almost everyone wanted it to be two men or that they had to be lesbians. And there was a lot of lesbian movies coming out, and they're like, well, if you make the two girls lesbians, I'm like, well, they're not, they're into dudes. Well, if you make them guys, I'm like, they're not, they're girls, you know? So it's like, this is what it is. So I started with,
can it just be two female friends?
It wasn't as, you know, sexy enough or whatever. So I had a hard time finding the financing. So what I started doing was going to actor friends. The first person I went to was Seymour Cassell. And I said, you know, and I had met him through Zoe and Zan Cassavetes. He used to come over, and I used to have like Thanksgivings and stuff at their home. And I met him through, and I, you know, became friendly with him. And I said, you know, I was wondering. He goes, yes. And I go, well, I know what I'm going to ask you. And he goes, whatever it is, Sherrie, yes. I said, well, I want you to play my dad in this movie. He's, yes. He goes, I told you yes. Just use my name, tell anybody, whatever you need to do. And then I went to Grace Zabriskie, and Grace I had worked with on a video. I forget what it's called. It was one of those, a video game, and you could pick who killed somebody in the end and tell the different stories. And we shot it all on green screen, but she played my mom in that movie, in that video. It was like shot like a movie. Mm-hmm. And so I got her attached. I asked Keanu to come do a day for me. And then I just started putting pieces together. And then I put in my own money to start and opened an account at City National Bank. And then I said, you know, and as a female, what I did was I went above and beyond what I thought anybody would want to see. So I had a script, a budget, a lined budget. I was the line producer on it, of course, because of the numbers. And then I put a prop list together, a location list together. I mean, like, I kind of broke it down where it's like, this thing's going with or without you. Do you want in? So I had some pretty big investors. Steve Bing was one of my financial investors. Charlie Sheen gave me some money. I had so many meetings with so many people, and I had to just walk that line, you know, whether I was serious, not serious. I also realized too, while I was getting this movie made, there was a lot of people that didn't think that I was going to go make this movie. And so I decided to stop talking about making the movie and just make the movie. And I gave myself a start date, my first start date. And I had so many little miracles that were starting to happen. You know, when you say like you're going to do something and the world just starts opening up to you.
Yeah.
I had met Johnny Depp through the years, and I wanted to shoot the opening of the scene at the Viper Room. And so I called the manager, and he said, no, absolutely not. You can't shoot there. I'm like, come on, Keanu's going to do it. His band's going to come down. And, you know, I just need it for like 6 hours. And, you know, no, you can't do it. So I was like, oh God, now how am I going to, how iconically am I going to open this movie if I'm not at the Viper Room? So, and I just got quiet. I went out that night and I ran into Johnny randomly at a restaurant. And I said, I'm trying to open the movie at the Viper Room. And, you know, I don't know why you don't want me to do that. He goes, what are you talking about? I never heard about it. And I said, well, he goes, of course, Sherrie, just, yeah, flip the guy some money to put the lights on and, you know, and the guy to do the sound. And yeah, it's yours for free, of course. And I'm like, okay, you know, so then I had the Viper Room. It was just like everything just in Panavision gave me a package, you know, with the lenses. I got I figured if I couldn't raise the money, I needed to get free stuff. And when I kept attacking it from both angles.
You
know, and I ended up asking Mick Jagger, who I introduced to Steve Bing, if he would give us a song for the Rolling Stones. He gave me 2 songs to pick from that I could get for free.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went to all the other musicians like Rancid, Dwight Yoakam, Casey and the Sunshine Band through Steve Nemeth through their Rhino catalog. Yeah. And I said, well, you know, you just match whatever I paid the Rolling Stones. And they're like, okay. What'd you pay the Rolling Stones? Nothing. So then it became, I got a free soundtrack. You know, but I had a lot of angels that helped me, you know, and a lot of people that just stepped up and did it. And I made sure I was always first one on set, and I was the last one to leave.
But you understand the reason that you had angels is because you did all the groundwork to put all those angels in place. They didn't just fall from the sky because, oh, you're Sherrie. No. You had done all the groundwork. You walked into every room you ever walked into prepared.
Yes.
And so people will treat you quite differently when there's just a feeling of trust that you know what the fuck you're talking about.
Yes. Yeah.
It's simple, really.
Yeah.
Good lesson to be learned for our viewership, because you know, people out there trying to make movies, in a lot of ways it hasn't changed at all since when, you know, you made that movie or we made our first movies. You know, it's still about preparation. It's still about collaboration, and it's still about, you know, being prepared, and knowing what you're doing. And if you don't know what you're doing, making sure that you have the right people who do know what they're doing to help you.
You have a certain amount of time and a certain amount of money.
Yes.
And once they run out, you're done. If you hit the ground without preparing, you will run out of both long before you're ready to.
Yes, I love that expression, you know, fail to prepare, prepare to fail. You know, I always think that way going into making a movie. Well, and I always try to think 10 steps ahead. Like, okay, if I get to the Viper Room and the back, I 2 a.m, I go to the guy. I'm like, so tomorrow morning we're coming at 5 in 3 hours. For sure, this lock will be off so I can bring the big truck down, right? Yes, I'm like, for sure, no one's going to lock it. And if someone does lock it, who can I call to get it unlocked? No, it'll be unlocked. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to be able to sleep. I got to know, you know. So I just always kind of think, like, what could, and then try to get in front of it constantly as a producer.
It's funny. There are a couple things that I learned from watching the movie that I'm. Is this true that if you put feminine hygiene pads on a motorcycle seat, is that true?
I don't know. I think if you put any padding on anything, it helps, you know, the comfort level a little.
Okay, you know, there were certain things I saw that, again, not being a motorcycle rider, it's just not shit I think about. But hey,
listen,
once you see it.
If you do try it, Alan, I won't think any less of you.
Thank you. Another question that came up as I watched the movie, Is there really such thing as a French whore shower?
I've heard other people say that, and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think I've heard, I think I've heard. I mean, there certainly is that way to have to just freshen up on the road.
Oh no, it's yes, yes, yes. It's I mean the two characters in the bathroom are doing something that everyone has done at one point or another in a bathroom. Like, oh my God, what the fuck am I doing? But it was the description of it. I don't know. I laughed halfway through the scene just hearing that combination of words, French whore shower. I don't know. It just made me laugh. When you said that you after making Me and Will that you decided to not pursue that road and you wanted to be in a punk band instead. Get all that, but oh man, that's a woulda, shoulda, coulda road, and I don't know what you're doing in your life at this point, but you have incredible mad skills as a movie producer, director, writer. You're really good at this.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I feel like the movie would have been better received even now. And I also, we talk about when the money runs out, the money runs out. When it came to post-production with editing, I was out of money, and I would have re-edited that film. And I've thought about going back and doing a director's edit and re-edit it, but I don't really like to look backwards, on things. It doesn't excite me to look backwards on things.
Understood.
It excites me. But in these last, I've been doing a lot of writing. I've written a series which is going to be very, very hard to get off the ground. I don't even want to talk about it yet until it's further in. But I've been developing it for years. I've written a movie with a partner called Left Field. It's a kids baseball movie, and I have the money for that now. And the tagline on that is "When life throws you a curveball, hit it out of the park." It's a very sweet kids baseball movie. I may direct that unless I find someone that I think is more qualified or that could have a better handle on it than me. And then I've written a movie called Christmas Puppy. So it's a very sweet little movie. And I have a horror movie that I wrote called Chiggers. So I have some things that I've written that are now kind of getting ready and percolating, and I'm raising funds for and seeing where they go. I like to kind of make them in-house. I don't really like to just write a script and sell it and farm it out. I like to kind of see it come to fruition. And I'm looking for, different partners. I just came back from Sundance and met with a couple different people on the different projects. So we'll see. Like I said, I finally feel like I have that time now that my son's off in college and doing his thing, that I can lend myself back to that.
You stepped away from the movie business to be a parent.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to, as when he was little, I tried to keep doing. I did Sons of Anarchy while he was young. He came to set. I did a few movies in Alabama, and I remember one morning I had to wake up, and I forget which movie it was. I did 2 or 3 there while he was young, and I remember opening the curtain in the hotel, and it was still dark out. And I said, "Come on, we got to get going. The car's going to pick us up." And he says, "But Mommy, it's not the next day yet." And I said, "Well, it is the next day. The next day starts at 12 and it's now 4 a.m. So it is actually officially the next day. And you can sleep when we get to the trailer. But, I had to be in makeup at 5 to be on set by 6. So I got to get up at 4, and he's just, he had a fun time at on set. That was the horror movie I made there. And that was fun, because he got to see all the stuff.
What's he doing now for a living? He's going down the same road, and obviously, it didn't bother him being there. It was
no, he enjoyed it. And Sons of Anarchy, that was hard because he was like 3 or 4 when I shot that, and I didn't know if that I did the pilot for that show, and I didn't know what was going to happen with that. And again, the call time was super early, and I didn't have a nanny or a babysitter or family member. So he just rolled with me, whatever I was doing. And, but it's hard. It was hard. I'm like, this is hard, and I wanted him to just have a stable, easy kind of, life. Like I wanted his life to be predictable and him wake up in the same bed and go to the same school and have the same friends and play sports. And he played baseball all through high school. He's a really good athlete. And I wanted him to have that. And he did. And now he's doing great. And now, I can, and hopefully maybe him and I will make a movie one day.
Hey, that would be cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. There's something to contemplate.
Yeah.
I have one last question. Sure.
Okay.
One last question. And it has to do with some of the dialogue in Me and Will.
Okay.
And since you wrote the script, there's always, even, we're putting them into characters' mouths, but there's always, there could be an element of us in them. I mean, how much of you is Jane and how much of Jane is you?
There's a lot of it that's based on my life, certainly, and then there's liberties that are taken and changed, of course.
Let's not get loaded or used until we find the bike. Is something that Jane says. It's the or get used. It's that sense of being used by people and knowing that you're being used. I mean, obviously that's something that I don't think you care for one bit.
No.
Was there something reflective in that line because of when she says it? It's really interesting.
You know what? It was more of to use drugs.
Okay.
Yes. But I like.
Okay. All right.
But I like that interpretation, and that could certainly be a part of it, especially once you see her codependent relationship she has with Patrick Dempsey.
Yeah. Secrets will kill you.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I believe that, I think it's very hard to hold secrets. I'm an extremely loyal person, and I will hold people's secrets for them. Sometimes to the detriment of myself. And I grapple with that often.
We're just too destructive together.
I always found, like, even when I was very young, I had certain friends, and I said this to my son too, there's certain friends that kind of bring things out in you, right? Yeah. And there's other friends, like, I had my one group of girlfriends that just like, hey, we got to get our homework in. And, oh God, we were not, our parents said not to do this. And then the other ones are like, hey, our parents said not to do this. Right. And it's like, it's like, so you have they bring out that little naughty side to you, or that side that maybe if you weren't with that person or hadn't met that person, you never even would have gone down that road. Right. Mm-hmm. And sometimes those are great things, and sometimes they're super destructive things.
Indeed. Last one.
Okay.
When I die.
Why am I sweating?
Okay. When I die, I want to be buried in a dress. We don't know in the movie if she gets buried in a dress, but
we kind of do, because
she's laying out the clothes. We never actually see the funeral or anything, but yeah, it is being laid out. All right. It's a morbid question, but we're morbid people. When you die, Sherrie, you want to be buried in a dress?
You're so funny.
No, I do though.
Do I? I don't. I haven't picked out my outfit yet. But I will give it some thought.
Go, please.
But
I'm selling insurance on this side. There's
right. But that, I mean, it's a good question. For that character, she really never allowed herself. Sorry, I'm about to cry. Wearing a dress is a very vulnerable thing. Your body is exposed. And it's like she finally wanted to allow herself to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And just her life experience never allowed it to, really. So it makes me sad for her, for that.
Oh God, I mean, what a hard pass. In the dad character, man. Ooh,
yeah,
boy,
the Seymour Cassell character. Yeah.
there's a shot in the shower where it really, and everything is just implied, where you see her feet and then his feet come in behind her.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, there's so much said with so little.
And there's, her writing in her journal when she says hiding a bag of clothes in the bushes, where her, the intonation is that she always had to dress tough and like not be a girl and just all that. And everything had to be this hard front, and she just wanted to always, she never felt safe enough. People she picked being, people that she was picking in her life that were too destructive together. And maybe this character, the Will character, finally allowed her that in some arena.
In a way, she would have been better had she had a little bit of the character from Only Skin Deep inside of her. that character's sense of self.
Yeah.
And that came as clearly from you as could be. You thank you so much for having this conversation with us, Sherrie.
Oh, thanks, you guys. I thought we were going to be on with a bunch of people and it wasn't just going to be about me. So
no, this was always going to be about you, and nothing but you.
Oh, well, you guys, thank you so much. I'm really honored that you thought of me, and thank you for the jobs you've given me. I feel so grateful.
You were one of the highlights in our career in Tales from the Crypt. I mean, that's why I don't think anyone else has done 3 episodes.
Our work looked good because your work looked good. We rely entirely on each other, and it is because you made our work look great that we kept going back to that well.
Thank you.
Stupid?
Well, very grateful, and I'm still here if you need me.
Oh, like I said, if we can set this thing up, your phone's going to ring, and you may never forgive us. And with that said, hey, thank you everyone for joining us. We will see you all next time. The How Not to Make a Movie podcast is executive produced by me, Alan Katz, by Gil Adler, and by Jason Stein. Our artwork was done by the amazing Jody Webster, and Jason Jody, along with Mando, are all the hosts of the fun and informative Dads from the Crypt podcast. Follow them for what my old pal the Crypt Keeper would have called terrific Crypt content.